Or we might just get a song from Ace.
Hello, hello, hello. We are back for another exciting episode of Ask Somebody Else. There you go, a little intro by Mace. Welcome you all back to the building. Oh my gosh. Well, hello there, sir.
What's going on?
Well, look how punctual you are.
Hey, listen, I'm normally late, and I said to myself, not this time, not this time.
Wow, I didn't even get to say anything. This is a world record. I think so. Tex started, and I think Tex was about 13 minutes late.
That's bad.
We've then been winding back, and we've had about 5 minutes, 4-3. But you're right on time. You're 0 minutes late.
I'm normally late, you know, and like I normally am, but I thought, nah, come on.
Hey, this is important. I know a lot of people have been excited about this one. A lot of people have wanted to, yourself built up a very lovely following on Instagram. I haven't even got to introduce what we're doing today. I've just seen the lighting go on to make sure that skin's popping. I've seen that for those who joined late. Tej has just engaged the lighting. I have my own ring going on here so you can see me glow. So, guys, for those that don't know, this is a section called Ask Somebody Else. It's an amazing section I do every week at Sunday at 6 p.m. where you get to ask another industry expert about property. So, Tej, don't pull that face. You are an industry expert. We've got you on today, and we're going to ask you loads of questions. A few people have laughed and said, you know what? I think this is the first one that's going to go over an hour because I think Tej is the only person that can out-talk you. So we're going to see how we get on today.
Listen, I'm hungry, you know, so when I get hungry, the internet connection goes, the sound goes, you just go
through a tunnel in your own house.
Basically, yeah. So, can't hear you, mate, sorry.
So, fair enough. So, for those that don't know Tej, you should. He's the king of all things yellow, all things branding, a property investor, shall I give you his bio or his Clubhouse bio? I don't know which one to go with at the moment. I'm going to give his Clubhouse bio. So, he's done, I think, purchased 15 properties in 9 months, raised over 600k worth of investor finance. A lot of that, as I understand, has actually been returned and you're reworking with some of the same investors. You have a portfolio, I think, in excess of 1 million, 1.2, 1.3 million, 1.2 million. But go on, give the guys a bit more about your background, how you got into property, what areas you invest in.
Cool. So, yeah, I've been in property for, I think, 2 years now. Lockdown, just, I don't know what time is. I started off, and I still do, buying single-let buy-to-lets in Wales. About 150 to 200 miles from where I live, which I'm sure people have questions about. I have a book I've written, and my second one is on the way. I have a podcast, Tej.Talks. I used to say I'm a public speaker, but you know, now it's like talking into my screen and talking to this. So it's kind of changed since the good old days. I do run a networking event as well, which you've spoken at it.
I have. I've spoken.
Yeah, we managed to get past your agent and book you, so,
isn't it? Oh yeah, no, you managed to squeeze through and come in direct. You know, those fees are rising, but lucky you got me on the cheap at an early stage.
You know, past the gatekeepers. Yeah, with Pippa. So that will be coming back whenever we're allowed to. So you know, I do a few things. Social media branding is one of the biggest things I think that people recognize me from, and I put a lot of time into. So. Yeah, you know, you said the Clubhouse bio, I said the kind of soft bio. I think hopefully people kind of get a taste of what I'm about. Exactly
that. So I guess as a starting point, would for a lot of people and a lot of people's first questions are why, like, what was the why for property? Like, why did you get into property? And also, how did you get into property?
Yeah, so I used to have a recruitment business, which I ran for 3 years, maybe 4 years. And then I spent the last part of it kind of contracting in-house with firms, like just the tech companies and stuff, because it was fun and I missed human like contact and all that shit. So, and it allowed me to make a lot of money quickly doing arguably not too much. Exactly. That was what people call golden handcuffs. Was making money, but I didn't like it. And I just thought, hold on a minute, I got into business to make money, but really is to do something I like and to actually then create something I want to and have an interest in. I thought, what have I done for the past X many years? good fun. It taught me a lot. And then I thought, well, hold on. I didn't read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I haven't read it yet, and I'm probably never going to read it. I just thought property, you know, I like grand designs, amazing spaces. How can I put my creativity from recruitment, which I couldn't really use there, into something that's going to earn money passively, as opposed to, well, I've done 7 hours.
Big quotes on the passive.
You know what? We can talk about that, because it definitely is passive in a lot of elements, and then some others it isn't. And I kind of, I just wanted something that would, instead of me being like, oh, right, I've done 7 hours today, I've made 50 calls, I could be, you know, getting closer to some money. I kind of want to be like, I've done nothing, or I've done this and that, and the money's still coming in. So that was the main reason. Well, that's the why. How was I went to networking events, started my podcast, joined lives like this, joined meetings like this, you know, went to dinner with people, bought people dinner to pick their brains. And it just, I sort of evolved and switched by going to a few big events like the National Landlords, I don't know what it is, just one big sales, basically. And I had my first deal. I want to say it was December 2018. I think I had offer accepted, but I can't remember the dates.
Okay. I think one thing you touched on there that's really interesting is the like understanding the importance of information. So the fact that potentially just offering to buy somebody dinner or take them for a drink and actually get the opportunity to ask questions, because information is power, and also information is really valuable. Like I said, particularly, like, you know, you have like your own courses and stuff that you teach, and I think there's a lot of information out there, but the good thing I like about like the courses, particularly the type of courses that you do, is they're within a bracket that's value for money, but it's the structure. So there might be loads of information out there for free, but it's a service that you're paying for to almost give you a roadmap. It doesn't guarantee success, but it gives you a roadmap to follow a path to allow you to actually almost feed your own hunger, like in the property space, which I really like about. So I commend you on those courses. And for those who haven't looked into them, would definitely recommend just clicking on Tej, giving them a follow, and making sure that you do go and have a look at those, because I don't do them myself and people always ask. So I'd much rather direct them to somebody who I know does them well. A stat again that's really amazing is obviously purchasing 15 properties in a sort of, well, just even if we just say less than a year's span. I think, could you sort of touch on how you managed to achieve that and what your strategy was in that space?
Yeah, so I mean, it was very, very stressful, and it was incredibly challenging for 101 different reasons. It was challenging mentally, physically, spiritually, everything. It was really, really difficult. You know, if I look at the market now and back then, would I be able to do the same thing now? Hell no, I can't even get one in a year. Like, it's just, it's crazy. So, of course, there was market factors. There was the brand, you know, like everything that meant I could buy these deals came from the brand, aka the money. And actually, I would say 6 or 7 of those deals came as a direct result, probably more, of my brand. Now, that's a lot. Like, this thing has got me the money and the deal. What else do I need? You know, and arguably, it's actually saved me money off solicitors, builders, broker. You know, it basically kind of got me everything in that process.
You've used it to leverage. You can kind of almost use your brand to leverage. It gives you a negotiation standpoint, because you are something. You have a product to offer. You have a give and take. You're bringing something to the table, effectively. Yeah,
that's it. And whether it's awareness or whether it's, hey, I know people, and if I say I trust you as a solicitor, you can bet your ass they're going to want to work with you. And my solicitors make thousands of pounds off the intros. I don't want a referral. I just want, when it comes to me and I say 7-day completion, it better be a 6-day completion. That's what I want. That's all I ask, because that.
To be fair, and I think that's something, even again, I always pay homage to people like that. When I've looked at stuff that you've done, like there was a time where I didn't really understand the value of my own brand. I just, you know, I'm very much like, I'm a little bit older, like I'm 31, and I'm very, like, social media was slightly new to me. So I was very much just like, oh, it's just an Instagram thing. It's just the internet. It doesn't mean anything. It's whatever. But it was only when like people were physically like cutting me up on the street and saying like, oh, like you're that Kazy guy. Like, can I talk to you? Like, literally, like you said, can I take you for food? Can I? But oh, this is becoming a thing. Like, and then even when I think I watched, I don't know if it was a YouTube video or just a live or even maybe a conversation that we had. But again, talking about, wearing, whether it's wearing your own branding or putting your own branding out there, making sure that when you go to agents, they know who you are, they know what you're about. Because the second an agent maybe just thinks, oh, let me just he's wearing a bright yellow t-shirt, but let me have a click on his Instagram, and they see that, okay, no, this guy actually does do it. You don't have to send them 1,000 different proof of funds, proof of what you are, proof of who you can definitely get deals done that bit quicker. And yeah, so it definitely adds a lot of value with branding. And because your background was it a marketing or not marketing?
Yeah, I mean, so I studied biochemistry at uni, and I went into they call it medical education. So it's marketing, but behind the scenes. So for the doctors and nurses, but basically less lying, but still kind of lying for pharmaceutical companies. Okay. But anyways, I'm not trying to get sued, so I won't go into that.
I think for people that are trying to get into property as well, I like the way you found something to leverage. So you had an area of expertise. Your expertise wasn't in property, but your expertise was whether it's public speaking or building brand awareness or sales. You use that to create a value service that you could use as a trade-off point in property. And I think that's maybe one thing that a lot of people miss when they're saying, how do I get into property? Away from all these get rich quick schemes in property, that actually you often have a lot of tangible value within yourself based on what you've learned, what you've studied, where you've worked in the past, and using those resources to leverage and to kind of say, okay, look, I can use those as a negotiation point, I think is really key. So I'm glad you touched on that as well.
No, 100%. And, to answer that question about how I did it, simply put, of course it's hard work, it's persistent, it's consistent, blah, blah, blah. But the real thing that allowed me to do it so quickly and to maybe that helped me stand out in some sense is this.
Yeah. And I think that's it. So for a lot of people, and it doesn't necessarily mean that a brand has to be what you do to get into property, but you created something that gave you a value proposition. When you go to the agent, I'm this. Whereas somebody else who's got a background in structural engineering is going there and saying, like, I can provide X, Y, or Z for you, or I can, just working out where your value lies. Couple of questions. One sort of more specific question was your best deal in property to date. What's my best deal? Yeah. What was your best, or it can be your favorite deal. It doesn't have to be your most.
I've got some. Yeah, a lot of my deals are good. Like on paper, a lot of them are good, and the ROI is amazing. But my favorite one has got to be one that. So I was in YPN magazine. #plug.
6-month waiting list at the moment, by the way, for people to be in there. So it's a big deal.
Okay, what can I say? 4-page spread. I won't go on about it. It was the first one as well.
Just a little 4-pager. Fair enough.
Yeah, as soon as you open up but that's cool. You know what I'm saying? It's everyday thing. So it's a deal where I purchased it pre-auction. It was like a rundown, the standard, standard stuff, right? Rundown, old kitchen, old bathroom, there, usual. Yeah. And I only got it pre-auction because I knew the auction house, which took time and effort. And actually, I bought a couple of them. So it was kind of like, I was like, look, I'm good for it. Let's get on with it. We completed in, I want to say 28 days. I'll tell you the figures in a second. So we bought it, I think I completed, 4th of December, something like that. And I was going to flip it, but then I ended up keeping another one in the portfolio because it got downvalued. And I was like, no, sorry, I ended up selling that one because it got downvalued. I was like, shit, okay, I've got to keep this. So it's kind of a bit too sexy for a rental, but it works. 3 months and 3 days after I got the keys, we had the tenant secured and all paid up. And I actually had the refinance money in my account exactly 3 months and 3 days after that. And of course, the house was refurbed and ready to go. This is uncommon. Big up to my broker, and my solicitor who completed it in like 28 days or less. But that's my favorite because it was my first time working with this build team before I'd now sent the bailiffs around. So that fucking changed quick, innit? So it was quite good in that sense. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous house. And it got super valued. It got valued above what I put in the pack. I was like, all right. Bought
Fair
it for
enough.
72, spent 18 and a bit on it, fees, costs, etc. Got revalued at 100. And I left in £3,000 and it cost £350 a month.
Right, someone rang me mid call, so I had to mute you for a second then. Well, I stopped
That's
mine
right.
on
But yeah,
Do Not Disturb.
that's my favorite deal. It's not the best on paper, like ROI, but
Yeah, but
I just
time
love to
frame wise,
see.
and also if you were to annualize, if you were to sort of sold that deal, if you were to annualize the ROI, it's totally different. And I think one thing a lot of like even some of my best deals, I think I spoke to you about one that was a conversion, ended up taking 2 years. So the money sounds amazing when you say, look, I made this amount. But because it's 2 years, I actually have to think in terms of my return on capital employed, I need to extend that. And so it's actually half the annualized amount. So I think just when you're doing your
Mhm.
numbers, you always need to look at sort of a time value of money and how long you've used that
Mm,
money for and what you could have done it, what you could have done. Sorry,
that's true.
so I think someone asked a question just in regards to branding, 31 homes. So they were talking, it was back on our previous discussion in terms of when we spoke about obviously you building a brand, and what their question was, how do you get that trust and positioning when you're just starting out?
You don't. That's the answer. You don't. Like simple as that. And I know to everyone saying people never answer it. It's because that's the hard truth. Is that
Mm.
you don't. Like it's easy to sell the dream and say, hey, do my raising finance module and you'll raise finance in a week. And it might happen. It absolutely can, but it's unlikely to come from your brand in a week.
Yeah,
It takes Kazy, how long ago did you start posting on Instagram seriously?
like June 2020.
Okay,
So
so like now you're very recognizable,
mhm.
at least in the property community
In the
space.
property space, yeah.
But that's taken more than
Yeah,
six
it's
months.
taken, yeah, so
Like,
close to 9 months.
so that is the truth, 31 Homes, is
Mm.
that at the beginning you don't. But that's why you have to. And I suppose I started before I even had a property. You have to start because it's not like, oh shit, I've got a deal, I need 200 grand. Let me make a page. It's like your page should be made 4 months ago,
Exactly. So I
and then
think
it comes to it.
there's a lot of stuff you can do in the background. I know loads of people that I don't know who sounds. Is it me that sounds very far away or Tej? I don't know, but I'm sure it must be me because I can hear Tej fine. So let me try and speak up. I think I know loads of people. I was saying that they're talking about property, all things property. They're posting hints and tips. They're discussing property, the property space, asking questions, engaging with people. They're still at university. They're not in a position to buy
Yeah.
yet, but they're still working towards what they want to achieve in the long term. And I think I've been banging on about this for the last 3 weeks, but I always say that just because you can't get into property or do exactly what you want to do now doesn't mean you can't start to take those steps to move forward or position yourself to be ready to make that jump when things develop. I think a good example you gave was with your auction as well, like that relationship with the auction house. They didn't buy into Tej.Talks just off the brand. You had to
Mm-hmm.
buy a house that maybe made a bit of money, maybe buy another house that maybe made a little bit, but not that much. By the time you wanted to buy a third house, it's like, look, you know me now. You've seen me a few times. I've done what I said I'm going to do. So you've built, they may have people that have bought through them 100 times, but have no brand. So they don't really recognize them. They don't, ask the right questions, engage with them how you want to. So sometimes that brand and doing actually what you're saying you're going to do and how you can build that credibility, not immediately, but
Mm-hmm.
at least expedite the process.
Yeah.
So I think that is very true.
I hope that helps 31 Homes.
Exactly. And then over to, so we spoke about it, a great deal. What about a bad deal? Maybe a bad deal with experience or just a bad deal in general? Have you had any of those?
Yeah, plenty, man. I mean, fortunately, some were rescued by the end value or
Mhm.
by some cost engineering. But I would say, what's the deal that makes me? Okay. Let's talk about my flip. So I had a flip, and the pictures look beautiful. I think it had the most viewings of any property from the agency I listed it with. Yeah, so it was wow. But it wasn't wow. So I made so many mistakes on this, and it's minor stuff, but there's so many minor things like not replumbing the house, not fixing the leak before people came up for reviewing, not replastering one of the main walls, not looking at some damp that was just because I fired the first builders off it. Second one's also messed up. It cost so much money. I didn't do what I know now, which is, Tej, shut up, put your cheap ass to the side, spend what you need to spend so that it can sell and you can get rid of it, right? Yeah. But I didn't have anyone to turn, and actually I should have used my network, but I didn't have a mentor to turn to where I could say, what do I do? Should I do this? Should I do that? And because it's slightly further away than most of my properties, I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but it kind of got left behind a little bit. And it was meant to be a flip. So we should have been in and out, I don't know, 6 months max, like in terms of completing. But it was meant to profit £20,000, which would have been about, like 25% profit on cost. So I'm happy with that. Yeah. And what happened was it ended up on sale, losing me minus £5,000. And I've recently just paid the final invoice, I hope, to fix stuff that went wrong kind of afterwards. I said to the guy, I said, look, I'll fix stuff that should have, is my issue, basically. So I spent another £1,500 fixing stuff. So basically this house cost me minus £6,500. And months of interest costs, months of finance. In fact, the investor said to me, Tej, look, I'll cut the rate and I'll give you a break on the interest. Like, do your thing, let's just get rid of it. So I was like, all right. Okay. And so, I mean, the interest I paid on that house, I don't know, it was a lot. And I mean, I've learned a million and one things from that, but that deal for me just kept coming back and kept pissing me off. And it made a lot. So,
I think, a lot of the times, particularly, like, don't be afraid to ask questions. Like, don't be afraid to say, I don't know this. Like, especially because of this. The good thing about the Clubhouse world is that there's so many people to ask questions and so many people that are just happy to give you their expertise. And there's different spaces between Clubhouse, Instagram, Facebook, and loads more YouTube that you can just ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I think particularly on flips, it's always good. You don't want to pay for everything, but sometimes you have to think on stuff that you can see. Like you said, I think not so much the plumbing, that's give or take, you take the expert opinion of a builder, but like on plastering a wall, somebody's going to see that. So if some people can see this wall looks really ropey, they're going to question the roof, the plumbing, the electrics, and everything else. So you might just miss out on a couple of people that were this close to offering, but that was what made it turn a no to a yes.
Actually, it did. You know what? You're right. Someone offered. Oh my god, best story. I forgot this part. Someone offered, and I was gonna zeros, right? And this guy, he accepted that there was some issue. He was fine with that. He then viewed it again. So he took ages, and he was annoying me. He took ages. Then he brought his new missus round or something. Apparently, she didn't like it. He comes back talking all the shit about damp this, blah blah, all this crap, yeah. And I said to the agent, listen, tell him to go F himself. There's none of that in there. I've agreed if there is any, I'll fix it. He's already taken a month. You're pissing me off. Anyways, I may or may not have called him a dickhead on Instagram Live. Maybe. I don't remember. I mean, sources say, but I don't remember that. I'm innocent, okay? This is not a shaggy. I am innocent. So, he starts saying to the agent, oh, I'm going to send him a cease and desist letter. I'm going to sue him, all this for my conveyancing costs. And I was like, please do. Like, please send it to me. No evidence, no proof. And conveyancing, you snooze, you lose, isn't it? It's your fees. That's how it works. And so that pissed me off. That wasted a month and a half of conveyancing. So that really annoyed me. So that house just pissed me off.
Did you learn any lessons about insulting people over the internet, or?
Nope, I'm going to continue doing it. But I never did it. I never did it. But I will continue. If I ever did it, I will continue.
Fair enough. A couple of questions. Again, some of these questions are not maybe you specific, so if they're not, feel free to put them away. So somebody, who was it asked? Martin asked, is it wise to complete a refurb in this current market cycle?
If you can get something and actually make money in this market cycle, then bloody hell, do it, because everyone else is, we're all struggling a lot. So yeah, I don't see why not.
Yeah, I think that's it. Do the numbers work?
Yeah. With a contingency, if you think there's going to be an issue in the future.
What do you have as your contingency in general?
Refurbs now it's 10%, although on single lets now I know I wouldn't hit that because it's become so accurate. End value, I probably drop it by like 10 to 15% off what I think it is. So yeah, 10, 15 overall.
Okay, yeah. Mine's very similar. I do 13 on the refurb, and then I'd stress test it at 5. But depending on the market, I might stress test it a little bit higher. So at the moment, it might go up a little bit. But I only do things. A lot of the stuff I buy is in really bad state. Like, so there's a lot of what ifs, particularly Victorian purchases. You can easily hit that 13 just through the what ifs, the stuff that you don't know about. You take off lath and plaster and the house falls down. Okay. So Christian Moon has asked, for beginners considering bridging, how would you approach getting the right tradesman in, and how do you factor it? I'm so bad at reading live. And how do you factor in this element into your timelines without eating into your bridging term length?
So I always get 12-month bridge terms. I know they offer like, 6-9 months, we give you like reduced rates. Forget it. Take the slightly higher rate and take 12 months, because on 2 of my houses, one, I managed to sell it like complete on the same day as the renewal fee, which is 5% for most bridges. The other one, I was about a week off 5%. So don't underestimate it, is what I'd say. I factor in, for a BRR, I factor in 8 months. But now, if I do one, it's going to be way quicker than that. But I'm factoring it in because who knows what the hell's going to happen. How do you stop it eating in? Well, you don't. You just have to. I suppose if you understand refurbs and you have the schedule of works and the sort of scope of work and the timeline, you know, well, okay, by month 6 to 8, we should be fitting the kitchen and bathroom and painting, and we're done. Week 6, and we're done. And then carpets are going in, and we can get the survey around, and we can get the shit done. And you've already spoken to your broker to look for lenders who will do pre-6 months revals, or you'll. So for me, it's the bigger picture, I suppose. It's like getting all the elements right. But yeah, get 12-month terms is the easy answer, I suppose.
And I think just working out like the moving parts, because sometimes people are like, they want to rush so much for somebody who do less than 6 months, but then because you're actually, the difference is between 4 months and 6 months. If you just wait for 6, your long-term rate drops by 1.5%. So you do the numbers over the next maybe 12 months, and you realize, do you know what? I'm just going to pay the bridge because my actual long-term net, which is why I think for us and a lot of developers that have kind of tried and tested now, we just sort of live in our spreadsheets. It's just what the numbers say.
And I've done that before. I've waited 6 months because it was in that period where I was like, I'll wait.
Yeah, no, definitely. I don't know. Have you done any HMOs?
No, don't need.
No, don't like HMOs. Why not?
I'm about that passivity. I'm about that. Don't bother me that someone stole your cheese. Don't bother me the light bulb's broken. It's your house. Can you please fix it? So,
you know what? Today I've had a very good experience of HMOs, but I think because I do quite high-end refurbs, it's naturally you attract what you put out there. So, like good standard of tenants. Likewise, I don't get the cheese issues. I do get the odds you left your socks in the washing machine. Now I can't use it. But I kind of just revert back to, it's a shared house. You guys are responsible for your independent communications unless somebody's breaching the tenancy. And generally speaking, I told them, like, look, you're not students. So I wouldn't want to treat you like students. I treat you like professionals. So I would expect that you communicate with each other unless you get to the point where it needs to be ridiculously escalated. But again, even with stuff like that, from believer in outsourcing, so I have like a VA who deals with all of my inbound tenant inquiries. So that works quite well. But the question was just in regards to location for HMOs and flips. So I think HMOs are really all about yield. So a lot of the time you're just looking at where your yield is, also looking at who your target market is. So if your target market is students, you need to be near the university. If your target market is professionals, you need to be in good transport links. Again, it just sort of depends on what you're looking for. And if you're doing, sort of short lets or something else, you just need to kind of look at where your market is and where your demand is. Where else are we? What do I mean by stress test? Oh, that was just in terms of just if market forces change. And for example, like working out if the property prices drop by 5%, how does that affect your deal? If your refurb costs go up by 10%, how does that affect your deal? Because those are stress factors that could impact the success of any potential flip or BRR deal. So that's what that is. What was the question I had in advance? So again, back to doing your clubhouse pitch of 15 deals in 9 months. How did you find 15 deals? How do you find your deals?
Yeah, so the first 2 were deal sources. The second ones I don't speak to. We got into beef, what a surprise. First one, we also got into beef, what a surprise. But the first one, we kind of solved it now, but he's still sending out shit deals. I'm kind of like, I would buy a deal off him, but I wouldn't get him to manage it. But having said that, that first deal, amazing, one of the best. And my second deal, one of the best. Mainly because of the tenant and the tenants, but still, it is what it is. After that, it was a few from agents, but only a few. Like, I mean, like 2, 3 maybe. One of them was secured on site. Like, I was like, okay, what do I need to offer? She goes, this number. I said, here's the number. Okay, deal done. Second one was done a few weeks later, but it was a similar thing. She said, you got offered this, and it's 52, and you'll have it. I was like, oh, it's 52. And there was a trust there, because I just knew she wasn't chatting. No, she wasn't like inflating the price to get, you know what I mean? She was, look, I work with investors all day long. You can offer less, please offer less to test this out. And I probably did at some point. Here's what you need to offer. I love that. Because it was like, deal, done. If I can't get there, then it's not done. And then after that, a lot of it was auction, pre-auction, post-auction, and in auction. Those are the main ways, actually. Yeah, auction and...
Okay. So not really. Have you tried any direct to vendor? I think recently you said you're going to start some direct.
Yeah. So I am doing it now for land and potentially commercial conversions, which I need to start. I'm actually training my VA to do most of this, basically, or an employee if I can get on the Kickstarter scheme. But for the buy-to-lets, I mean, I've done a few D2V because some of my neighboring houses in my portfolio are like vacant and nasty. So I've kind of contacted them. But no, I didn't do any D2V. I just thought, you know what? I could spend thousands of pounds and I could do all this shit, or I just keep doing my thing and keep, maybe paying a little bit more, but I just couldn't be bothered. That's it.
I think it's time. Obviously, we need to understand that with everything, whether it's our capital to invest, our expertise, or our time, we only have a certain number of hours in a day, and you can't be great at everything. So sometimes you're better off specializing in, like you said, you're good at building relationships, good at branding, and that means that you can get good deals through agents and maybe auction houses. Again, direct to vendor is a really good strategy, but you need to kind of almost specialize in using all the right tools to search the right places, to be on, on top of responding back to people, remembering what deal is even what when they come up, because you send out 500 letters and somebody comes back and says, hi, I'm John, thanks for getting in touch. Then you have to respond and say, sorry, who are you? And then the relationship's gone already. So it's a bit, I think, I found a lot through, honestly, just through agents, Zoopla, Rightmove, and just London's a bit weird because I think where you're based for your like buy-to-lets, it's obvious if a property just needs work and is like sort of undervalued, or you can add value. With London, like the difference between certain roads, the right school districts, or just seeing potential that maybe people have missed, with, I think I've spoken before about the 1 to 2 bedroom conversions and things like that. So expertise of saying, okay, I know I've done this for a while, and also whether it's loft conversions, rear extensions, and where they're going to add value, because of the value of our property prices, because our sort of, even flats are upwards of 500,000, you can easily know that adding a loft conversion that's going to cost you 45,000, that's going to add you an extra bedroom, is going to be worthwhile, and it can make just what's not a deal a deal. How do you find that actually with your build costs? Because obviously build costs are not crazily different, but your property prices that you're working in.
So I don't do extensions. I don't do loft stuff.
Mm.
I ain't never going to do that in my buy-to-let. I had a property that had planning permission to build an extension. It had the footings and it actually had up to DPC level built.
Yeah.
He was dreaming, this guy, man. Do some Airbnb. Like, it was, I said, we ain't building that because I think it was going to cost like 20 grand to build. It's a double story extension, blah, blah, blah. And it would have added in value about 11 grand. And I said, hold on a minute here. It doesn't make any sense. And it's the same with land there. It's negative value. Like, no matter what, you cannot buy that land and make a profit. Even if you have your own cash, you've got no investor costs.
Yeah.
It's negative. Like, it's crazy. So for me, refurbs are very obvious in that it's, okay, what's the existing space? Strip it all back, do it again, done. Whereas obviously for you, there's so much, maybe it's more creative and or more kind of using space or making space. And we haven't got permitted development in Wales either, so I just wouldn't do it. Yeah, so it's a double waste of time for me and money.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. That's very much fair enough. And so what are your plans? You said you're going to go into potentially, you said some land deals and commercial to residential. What sort of areas? Same area, new area? Where are you going to be looking?
No, so I used to live in West London near Heathrow Airport. Now I live in Hertfordshire. So I'm close to like kind of Hertfordshire, Bedfordshire. Pretty much I'm kind of in the middle of the major towns here. And it's gorgeous, rural, lots of countryside, lots of greenbelt, lots of conservation areas, lots of parish councils, etc., etc. But big opportunities here. And as pretty much everywhere, that the council aren't doing shit. They're planning department's slow. They haven't met their 5-year targets ever. They're probably never gonna. So it's it's always ripe for kind of like taking an opportunity, I suppose. So I'm looking at what I like to do is I look at a deal, right? I look for deals. So I'm still in the market for flips around here. Your bog standard, piece of shit, turn it around, flip it. I'm in the market for new build, whether it's a plot of land, whether it's on the side of a house, in the back of a house, land with planning, which has never worked so far for me in the sums, land without planning. But also, given the sort of way we're changing with COVID, is to look at commercial conversions. Obviously, we've got this new, is it MA or PA, permit development class coming in for commercial, which would be pretty cool. So I'm just looking for opportunities. And because there isn't that much stock, I don't want to limit myself to one type because I'm open to all of them. And land will take this long, commercial will take this long, a flip will take this long. So it kind of builds my pipeline in a kind of appropriate way, I suppose.
Yeah, that makes sense. So for, I guess, tips for somebody sort of starting out, a lot of people are looking to start younger as well, which is great. But also with that means, again, maybe either a lack of capital or lack of experience. What steps would you say for somebody, who wants to get into property, or advice, from your experience? Where would you say they should start looking or start doing?
I think people need to, well, firstly, I don't know, don't start too young. Enjoy yourself because life only gets harder. You get more bills, you get more payments, you get more bullshit.
Did you see this thing that said, as soon as you're over 25, you don't need an alarm, your problems wake you up?
I mean, that's very that's very millennial, very current. And then when you move out from home, don't even get me started. I spent 6 hours in the garden today and 2 hours in here, and I got my bread baking down there, right? Shit is mad when you become an adult. So firstly, please enjoy yourself, people. I know you want to do all this stuff and but please enjoy yourself. I promise you're going to regret it if you don't. Secondly, as you were saying, there's lots of free resources. So because you're at an age where I'm assuming here, aren't going to have as much capital because you haven't worked, you haven't got a pension, whatever. Go on Amazon, go on podcasts. Literally, give yourself a budget, £150, £200. Go on Amazon and buy every single property book. I mean, there's some you shouldn't. I ain't going to get into that, but buy most.
Should you buy yours?
Well, obviously buy mine. Obviously, people can read the reviews and make their mind up. But get into it, right, and look at what strategy you can do firstly, because if you've got £5 grand in the bank, you're not buying a buy to let. Whereas if you've got 50, You could.
Mm-hmm.
So look at what strategy you can do, but then also look at what you want to do. Because if you have 30K in the bank, why can't you have 300 or 3 million? You can, right? You actually can raise it. But you also need to know how and where you can start if you haven't got an investor, and most people probably haven't. So think about, what can you do? What do you want to do? You know, where do you want to be in X many years? Right? Work out a cash flow goal. Speak to someone like us, speak to someone who's more experienced, who can say, you want 50K a month? Okay, what's the reason for that? Let's break that down.
Yeah.
Because you probably don't, depending on what your lifestyle is. And then once you have that target, you know it's there. In 3 or 5 years, you need to get there. You can then break it down, mini, into your daily, weekly, monthly, yearly goals. So that, for me, is one of the biggest things to do, is to start that goal-setting process early.
Yeah.
Shadow people. You know, like, I'm looking for videographers. So if anyone can take good videos and actually have the camera, and they can edit it and do all that shit, you can come on viewings with me for free. And you can learn.
And that's that thing again about the trade-off of skill sets. Because if somebody comes in your DMs tomorrow, and I'm sure people come in every day and says, "Oh, are you looking at mentoring anybody?" Like, you know, I just come. But if somebody comes and says, like, for example, "Oh, Tej, I've noticed," like, they might have noticed something like, "Oh, I've noticed your grid is a bit off, and here's my grid that I've done, and this is a page that I've built, or this is, I'll do this for you if you can offer, if I can just shadow you." It's a lot of the times the guy that I'm working with now quite closely, that helps me with some of my content, that wants to get into property. He's found a trade-off, and that's how we work together, because there's loads of stuff that I'm learning from him where I'm, you know, pretty bad at social media a lot of the times, and there's a lot of stuff that he's learning from me.
Yeah, that's important.
Why Wales? Like, because loads of people do, like, there's a question a lot of people, like, you know, for example, somebody will approach either myself or you and say, "Look, I've got 30,000, 50,000, but I live in London. So I guess, why Wales? And how did you find investing in an area that wasn't your locality?"
So for me, it's pretty much the same answer as any area. Good sales market, good rental market, low entry point, so like the north, basically. And I suppose the most important one is high likelihood, at least back then, of doing BRs and pulling most of your money back out. It's the same reason that people look at Yorkshire and Liverpool and Scotland. You know, there's nothing special about it. I happen to live in West London. M4 was on my doorstep. It's 2 hours there, or it's 3 or 4 or 5 to the north. If I could choose anywhere, it would be up north because of the capital appreciation and because of the economy and what's happening there. So
the infrastructure investment as well.
Yeah, it's not my dream location. It's not my first choice, you know. But given my location and the fact that I didn't want to drive and all that shit, that's basically why I chose it.
And then what about, I guess, even though you said it's still only 2 hours, how did you find not investing where you live?
Tricky, man. Like, I don't know who these people are who go up for like a day and then drive back the same day. I fall asleep, so I would go there for 2 or 3 days. I'd get an Airbnb. I think once I stayed on my own, actually, because of COVID. But like every day would be like 10, 15 viewings. But I wouldn't even have time to go to the toilet during the day. It was painful. Not even eat properly. And when I did, it was these like crap sandwiches from Asda with no spice, no flavor, dry. But I've sacrificed, you know. Like, I'm a foodie and I'm sitting there eating this dead sandwich. It was not nice. But you know, I wanted to buy them quickly. And buy to lets are slow. I had to use my time there efficiently, so I would be all over the bleeding place. And it was tough because what if a property comes on Monday, but I'm not due there till next week because I went every other week? Or can I view it next week? Yeah, of course you can, but it'll be gone by then, and it would be. So, you know, by not being local and then I didn't have people local as much. You know, you struggle, and you are behind other people. Factually, someone locally is going to smash you to the post every single time, unless you have people locally.
Yeah. No, I think that's really key. And you said you've got people there now, you've built more relationships, but I guess the back of that, my questions would be, do you now work with people locally, like in the areas that you're investing in?
Yeah.
And also, how long did it take you to really understand the market that's not an area that you're from? Because even the same way, it's not as much disparity, but I'm sure there's still the right catchment area, the right roads, the wrong roads, the ones that are too close to the motorway, etc. Because you're not there, you don't necessarily know that. In Google Maps, everything looks like trees.
Everything looks like trees. That's the quote from today. So, like, you know what? To answer the first question, yes, I got people there. My kind of new builder as well will do viewings and all that. You know, like I've got multiple types of people who can do multiple things. I'm now actively working with more sources. If I can find one that isn't shit. So if you're not shit, you can send me a DM. If you are shit, please don't.
If you're sensitive, don't DM Tej, by the way.
You know what? Yeah, please don't. It's taken though a year and a half, whatever. But it was also to the point with auctioneers where I can just say, like, you know, for example, hey, listen, I know there's not weed here. I know this street. Let's not take the piss. You clearly haven't put a backdoor picture up of the back. Can you WhatsApp it? And they will. You know, like I'm having a laugh in my emails and WhatsApp with one of the auctioneers, one of the biggest auctions there, and we're just taking a piss out of all sorts. And with another one, that's the kind of level, which means that I don't need to view it because they do 3D viewing now, Matterport and all that shit. And if I have a suspicion of something, I will ask them out verbally, and they will tell me. Because that's the level of trust that has been built. So as much as I have people, I've got institutional people in the right place, which means I don't even need a human I can just buy. And you know what it's like. Yes, there's a lot of what ifs in refurbs, but because mine. We're not going back to brick. I don't think I've ever gone back to brick fully before. No, I have. No, I have once. I have one. Okay. But we don't need to. So for me, yeah, there's what ifs. Because I love refurbs and I can price them very accurately, I don't need to see it. I just know. So the second part was what was the second part again?
So obviously you building relationships, and then the second part was more so in terms of being able to get your pricing right on your GDVs. Like, how long did that take to really know the area?
Yes. You know what? Pretty quickly, because I networked so much. I saw a lot of deal sources packs and look and analyze those deals for practice. I spent a lot of time analyzing end values. I spent a lot of time speaking to other people, speaking to agents. And then, of course, because I grew so quickly, I started to actually then have live refurb costs very early on, and pretty quickly they were always changing. And then also GDVs, because I had valuations, or I had, you know, so
you had actual live numbers.
From my own, and because I networked, people would say to me, Tej, I just got valued on this, and so it was a kind of. And even learning the areas, right? Like distinguishing the nice trees from the bad trees. Like I would speak to people and say, you know what? It was probably easier than doing it where I live. But because where I live, we have stigma, right? Like, oh, that's that area.
Yeah.
You know, whereas there I was like, oh. And so I probably learned better. Oh, my plant's dying. I probably learned better by not being local. You know, that actually probably benefited me.
No, that's good, because I get asked the question a lot, and obviously I've always worked where I've lived, so I'm not the person to go to, but there are, you know, loads of people like Tej. I can see, I think I've spoke to the guys from, I think it's Dungard Properties that are based.
Do that properties, yeah. They're good mates, yeah, I like them, yeah.
They do a lot around the Wells area. Luke's Properties as well, that I think is in the chatters, that he's does quite a lot around there as well, which there is a lot of opportunities if, you know, you've got a certain level of capital and it just simply won't stretch for the London market. But I think the main thing I took out of your answers are, yes, it's possible, but there's a lot of work to do around it. And don't just think because it's cheaper, it's easier by any means. That you still have to understand everything else you'd have to understand, because you're still investing your 25,000, 50,000, however much you're investing. You still got to put that money to work.
I'll tell you something. The amount of people who cannot analyze a deal is scary, man, because I do like 3 15-minute calls like twice a week, and someone came on, he's a London investor actually. He's now doing my e-learning, but we looked at this deal of his and he thought it was a BR, all this shit. It turns out he was leaving in 100 grand, which is okay, depending on the deal. His ROI was something like 7% on money left in, which for me is just, I won't even open my eyelid for that.
Yeah.
I don't think any investor would or should. In this deal anyway. Then we went through the deal analysis, and I said, what about this? And he goes, oh yes, this. Then it turns out the ROI is 0 because he's actually going to be cash flowing minus £700 a month with 100k left in. And he had an offer accepted, and I said, you better pull out, boy.
Yeah.
That's a shit deal. And yes, that's London, so we're talking big sums like you said. But the amount of people who won't pay 15 quid to read a book or won't pay 500 quid to learn deal analysis, it's shocking and it's scary because they're going to fuck up, think they did a VRR, and when it goes wrong, oh, it's that Rick Surveyor. And still, Rick Surveyor's like, I got beef with you lot as well. But they're going to say, oh, you downvalued me, and then, oh, the builder ripped me off. And it's like, nah, bruv, you were a dickhead because you didn't analyze the deal. It's scary, the amount of people. It's scary.
I think it is very, very important to firstly try and work out what it is that you don't know. So there's loads of free information out there. Take time to to digest that. And at the point where you feel like, okay, you know where your gaps in your knowledge base are, you can then start paying for information, because know that people often undervalue information, but will pay the builder, but then won't pay for the information to know that the builder's ripping them off. And it's
that's good.
So it's kind of like finding that balance between the payment. I know I should do what you said. I'm going to try, by the way. But I know. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. That don't devalue or don't disrespect information, because information is what is actually going to make you the money. So many people will tell you, you don't make the money when you sell, you make it when you buy, and you make it when you buy because you analyze the deal correctly, you understood your costs, you understood your rate of interest, you understood your exposure, you understood your risk. Are you taking the right level of risk for rewards? And you can't do all of those things without a solid foundation of knowledge. And we're talking property. So if your foundation is not solid, whatever you build on top of it, whether that be raising investor finance or building a great brand, if you don't understand the basics, it's all going to come crashing down in the long term. So
and you shouldn't be using investor finance if you
if
can't
you don't understand how to do things.
Yeah, it's just dangerous. It's just dangerous, man. But yeah.
No, I think that's it. I think that kind of concludes us at a very, very nice point of the day. Obviously, I'd like to I'd like you to give the opportunity to plug your 17 different things you're doing this week.
So the first thing I'm going to plug, I'm just going to reach over here and get one of the proof copies of it.
One you made earlier?
Got my Blue Peter badge coming soon. This, ignore that. I haven't got a real copy because they're sold out. People keep buying them. This is my book on Amazon. It's currently got, I think, 175 5-star reviews. It's a Kindle. It's a physical book. It's got satin covers. See the font. Look at this. Ooh. And yeah. You know about that. And it is also an Audible by me in a professional studio with a professional mic. You know what I'm saying? I do it properly. Alternatively, my network.
Can you give us one line of you doing the Audible just as a teaser?
Oh, that's not a good line. Let's start here. The easiest way to find properties and research.
What are we giving them too much? We're giving them too much. Stop.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Go and buy the book.
Sorry. Go buy the book, people. And the best one on Audible is free. I don't think I get paid for the Audible version. It's ridiculous. Amazon just take all my money. The second book is coming out in less than a month. So that's interesting. It's different from, thank you, Christian, said that Audible is quality. It's different from my first one, but it's going to be equally as lit. I also do free 15-minute sessions. It's called Ask Me Anything. Link is in my bio. Also, as you very kindly spoke about my e-learning, the link is in my bio. Feel free to DM me. It is aimed at beginners, and it focuses on the BRR strategy in single lets. And it takes the book and all my free stuff to another level. And I also have a raising finance module. So if you think you ain't got no money for deals, you think your uncle who's hiding 100 grand, how'd you get out of him? And also FCA compliance, because it's a criminal offense not to comply. That means prison. Playing Akon locked up in your Instagram story when that happens. Check it out. It's probably the cheapest raising finance module out there, and I'm going to say it's probably the best. So yeah, links are in my bio. Follow me, people.
Yeah. That is definitely, everyone is in here. Tell a friend, tell a friend. I will be saving this so you can come back and see it later. But make sure you're following Tej. Been following him. Probably one of the first people I followed, to be very honest, just because his branding was really good. Really liked it. Nice guy. Will shout at a lot of people. So potentially, if you're stressed, you could just be stressed with him, which is great. We will be back each and every Sunday, 6 p.m. So make sure you set yourself a little reminder and lock in. Next week, we have another episode in regards to finance. So we're going to have an amazing broker on with 10 plus years of experience for you to ask all of your questions in the property space about raising finance, development loans, bridging finance, buy-to-lets, residentials. And that's pretty much it. So thank you, everyone, for locking in. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Tej, you've been amazing. Your hair's been sensational. And I shall see you all very soon.
Thanks for having me, man.
See you
Speak soon.
later, mate. Bye.